Hello viewers, I've decided to make this video because I wanted to understand the concept of Marxism, and I hope my making of this video will unravel the ideas that I am struggling with, and hopefully it will contribute in aiding your own understanding. So as I go through these ideas and explore its nature, I hope that I can shed some light on the issue of the current modern world that Marxist philosophy has produced in places where it has been implemented. So let us first understand what Marxism is. So Marxism is basically a political and economic philosophy that was co-created by two philosophers, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, back in the late 1800s. As far as I can remember properly, I might be mistaken with the dates, but thereabouts is accurate. And so the basic fundamental tenets of Marxism is this: history can be viewed as a landscape of battle, warfare between two opposing camps. On the one side, you have the capitalist, or as Marx would call, bourgeoisie, people who had means of resources. What would they include? Money, factories, tractors, land. Capital would include anything that is used to increase the amount of wealth, or that is used to generate further wealth, or that is used to generate further capital. So we have on the one side the bourgeoisie, the capitalist. On the other side, we have the poor people, the oppressed, victim. And so Marx would call this group the proletariat, the working class, the workers. And so what Marx would point out is that there is unfairness in the economic system of any economy, because an employer, a capitalist, could employ workers and pay them according to his own desire. So in a sense, he would utilize the effort of the working class, utilize their labor, and pay them unfairly, and pay dismally, and that would qualify as injustice, which it actually is. So if someone is not being paid properly as per their merit, as per their skill and capacity, then that's an injustice. That's not the issue. There is always injustice, and there we have to find a solution to mitigate the injustice. But the issue that I'm concerned about is the way, the methodology that Marx used or proposed that we should use in order to ameliorate this problem, in order to get rid of this fundamental oppression. So Marx's idea was that there were these two groups that were constantly in battle with one another, and eventually a time will come when the working class will aggregate into a group, will form a coalition so strong that they are now able to overthrow the capitalist, the bourgeoisie, and run the economy. So that's the fundamental idea of the utopia, the end goal of Marxism. So the caveat here, the hidden devil in the detail is the procedure. How are you going to bring about the utopia? What exactly are you going to do in order to bring about that utopia, that perfect state where no one is oppressed, where everyone is equal, where everyone is paid according to their wants and needs, and everybody has to contribute according to their ability? How do you bring that utopia? And the answer to that question, according to the Marxist philosophy, was to, well, fundamentally kill all the rich, productive, admirable, educated individuals, confiscate their property, their capital, and redistribute into the community. And well, we've seen what happened in the 20th century, in the Soviet Union, in Maoist China, in Cambodia, and recently in Venezuela, and still in North Korea, what the consequences of that are. When these communistic ideologies are instantiated, the result inevitably is bloodbath, is horror show, and it's a terrible nightmare. One of the reasons that I'm so concerned about Marxism and its communistic ideologies is because I personally have suffered through its consequences, although not directly, but indirectly. Although I do not want to go into detail too much, especially my parents have been chased by Maoist activists and Maoist members. Back in Nepal, I used to live in the northern regions of Nepal. Taplejung, it's a small district up in the north near the border of China. And during the Maoist insurgencies back in 1990s, when I was just 2.5 years old, Maoists came knocking at my doorstep, at my door, and asked my mother to sacrifice me in order for their ideology. And my mother refused, and she cried, "Please do not take my child. He's going to serve you later on, but for the time being, he's just 2.5 years old. Please let him survive. Please let him grow a little older, and then he will be able to contribute to your ideology." Although my mother didn't like them very much, she had no other choice than to persuade them. And so the following night, my mother she eavesdropped. She was informed by few neighbors that Maoists will be coming to attack our family. Our family happens to be a little on the fortunate side on the economic scale. My grandfather happens to accrue some resource for some reasons, maybe inherited or whatnot, but that's not justification for killing my parents. My parents didn't loot, or they didn't steal, they didn't accrue the economic resource by any evil means. Everybody is out there generating wealth. Everybody wants to accumulate as much wealth as possible, and that's not a vice. That's a virtue. That's how we progress. That's how we build our society. And when you criticize people when they are building wealth, when they are building their competence, when they are growing and flourishing, if you criticize when people are improving, then it breaks people. My mother cries over that. And that's something that hurts me deeply. And one of the reasons that I'm deeply dissatisfied is because I've seen what the consequences are. It's always tears and bloodbath. And I cannot still believe why my country still has Nepal Communist Party. This party should be abolished tomorrow. These leaders are propagating ideas that are so infectious, and we are so ignorant and so unimaginably, reprehensibly uninformed about the consequences of these ideologies. That it is shameful, it's abhorrent, it makes me aghast to even contemplate that this is happening. And we are letting these ideologues, these politically biased and unbelievably uninformed ideologues take over our country. And we never know when our democratic institutions will collapse. Recently, KP Sharma Oli, our Prime Minister, I do not know the details, unfortunately. I should be informed. But he went against the Constitution and did something reprehensible. Well, we no longer have any faith in our constitution. What is going to save us when the flood comes, which it inevitably will? And, well, I think the only way we can get through these catastrophes is by informing our citizens, by being an informed citizen ourselves. You and I, we have to learn as much as possible about what is happening and how we are going to solve these problems. This is massively critical and complex problems, and we are not going to be solving it through just activism, going out onto the street with a placard that says, I'm against poverty, I'm against hunger, I'm against climate change. That solves nothing. Although it makes you feel better about yourself, although it provides you with a modicum of superiority, or it provides you with a sense of moral, it gives you a moral virtue, it solves no practical problem. One of the only ways we can solve it is through educating ourselves and by living in a truthful manner and speaking truth and living so that we do not have to lie. I think that's enough for today. Thank you very much for listening. Hope that we can have conversations in future and improve each other in whatever way possible. Peace.